Hey friends, as of late, I haven't been putting out quite as many videos as I normally do for a couple of reasons. One, I'm rebuilding my studio. Hurricane Laura last year damaged my studio pretty bad, where I pretty much had to flatten the thing and kind of start over from the ground up. So I'm working on that now. And in fact, like with anything else, you upgrade whenever you do that. Plus, down here in South Louisiana, it's been too hot to do gun-related videos as far as shooting out on the range. So that's about to pick up too, because our temperatures are getting where they need to be. Real quick, I want to talk about something that I don't hear a lot of people talking about, and it's kind of the giving up, the forfeiture, the self-forfeiture of your own rights, your own liberties, if you will. I've noticed the willingness and the eagerness, if you will, of so many people wanting to give away their own privacy rights, their own rights of liberty and choice, whether it be vaccines, masks, staying home. You can't do this, you can't do that. People who are overly complying with mandates when they're not laws, and they make this assumption that they are actually, that somehow a mandate is a law. People really need to understand that. People need to realize that mandates are strong suggestions that have no legal bearing pretty much to them. Again, I'm no lawyer, so I'm not speaking from that standpoint, but I know a mandate's not a law, I guess is my point. I want us to be very careful about the things that we're willing to accept in the name of public safety. The federal government has never been shy about assuming our freedom to choose as being their own. They've never been shy about taking on things that don't belong to them and making it them. And when we don't protest that and we don't push back, they just slowly but surely permanently take on those things. That's what's happening right now. So many people are pushing for, let's just use vaccine mandates for instance. So many people are pushing for that. You had your own president, Joe Biden, who said months back that that would never be a thing. They could never see themselves mandating a vaccine. Well, now they're doing that. Now they're trying to push that. What they're trying to do is push other companies to do that. Let me explain to you why, in many cases, you're going to see the federal government push states to do things or private businesses to do things. When you see that, you know that the federal government knows that it is unconstitutional to do that. If the federal government asks a business to do something, it's because they can't make you do that on their own, and they know that it's unconstitutional to try to pass some kind of new law out there that would make the federal government implement these things. So they push that responsibility as if they're trying to make the companies responsible by doing these things. They're simply doing that because they're making a really strong suggestion. Hey, companies, can you please do this, because we know we can't do that. That's a telltale sign that the federal government knows that they don't have the power, the authority, or anything like that to do that when they ask somebody else to do that. Same goes for states. When you see, for instance, red flag gun laws, the federal government knows that passing a red flag gun law from a federal level would be absolutely unconstitutional. They can't do that. It would violate due process, which directly violates the Constitution. They know they can't do that. So what do? They try to they try to push the states to create and implement their own red flag gun laws. That's what they've done in the past. You've actually heard many of the Democrats go out and say that, including Biden, that what we're looking to do is encourage, they make it sound like they're really trying to work with the states to do something great at their level. But they say we're trying to encourage the states to come up with some red flag gun laws. Of course, they call them risk protection orders, that we want to encourage the states to come up with their own. So what they do is they take our money, our federal taxes that we pay to the federal government, they put that in a bucket, use it as bribe money. They call it grants, but it's bribe money. And they say, okay, I live in the state of Louisiana. They say, okay, Louisiana, are you going to come up with your own red flag gun law? Because we can't do it. It's against the Constitution. So the state of Louisiana will then say, okay, well, what's it worth? Well, here's $2 million. Oh, really? That's what it, not just 2 million, but annually we're going to give you, let's say 20 million. Every single year we're going to give you that. So now the state takes notice and like, oh, we're willing to step on our own constituents' toes in order to do this. We're willing to violate their constitutional rights because look at all this money that the federal government gives us. That comes from us, goes to the federal government. They in turn pay that to the states. Same goes for the vaccine, the whole push for the vaccine. If you guys noticed, the federal government passed I don't know the exact name of it, but it was a coronavirus or a COVID relief bill, right? A COVID relief bill, to me and you, we're thinking that's going to go to the businesses that you shut down. That's going to go to all these people that you forced out of work. That's going to go somehow to benefit someone out there who needs it because of all the things that you mandated during this shutdown and everything else. Somehow or another, you're going to ease their pain, right? No, not necessarily. In the state of Louisiana is run by a Democrat, but it's relatively a red state. What they did is the federal government gave Louisiana a big chunk of federal tax dollars under this COVID relief bill. Our state turns around, makes a lottery out of it, and says, hey, if you go get a vaccination, a shot, now you're entered into this contest to win $1 million. Yes, I'm not making this up. This actually happened in the state of Louisiana. So they took your money, gave it to the state of Louisiana to give away to somebody who simply decided that they wanted to have a vaccination, or let's just call it a shot since it's not a true vaccination. So they're taking your money and doing things with it that you don't approve of through the guise of these other bills. Now, why am I talking all about this and I'm a gun channel? The reason why is because your gun rights are going to be the next thing out there on the chopping block. Remember, when everybody started freaking out about the coronavirus, when it's an epidemic is a small controlled disease, an outbreak, if you will. But it's in a somewhat of a controlled area, smaller area, whatever. When it becomes an epidemic, that means now it's gotten out. It's in more places. When the WHO or anybody else at that level declares a true pandemic, that means it's crossed borders. That means it's now a worldwide issue. It's not just a regional issue, if you will, in the state of Louisiana or the United States, if you will. For instance, when China created this virus and they carelessly let it get out in Wuhan, that was an epidemic, right? Then when they let everybody start flying all over the world, it became a pandemic because they spread it worldwide, crossed borders into other regions throughout the entire planet. The reason why I bring all that up is you will notice that the anti-gun people are starting to use the term epidemic. We have a gun violence epidemic. The reason why is because epidemic is on the tip of everybody's tongues and pandemic is right behind that. On April 7th of this year alone, the Biden administration sent out a fact sheet. The very first paragraph states, today the Biden-Harris administration is announcing 6 initial actions to address the gun violence public health epidemic. These guys are using all the buzzwords that got yours and my attention early 2020 of last year. They're using all the buzzwords: public health, public safety, epidemic, pandemic. They're using all those terms because right now everybody's on point when they hear those things. So watch, you watch. Remember all the money that we pay to the WHO and the UN. Watch the UN and watch the WHO, the WHO. Watch them start to now claim that this is an epidemic. And at some point, all they have to do is run statistics in other countries. You can run statistics in Africa, Central America, South America, parts of Europe, obviously parts of the Middle East. They got gun violence, right? There's people shooting people with guns. So clearly by their definition, now it's not a disease, obviously, but by their definition, they've already called gun violence an epidemic. So by their definition, remember, they rewrite things, they make things on their own. They already call gun parts machine guns when they are obviously not. They call suppressor parts suppressors. They call daycare in their latest budget and paid time off infrastructure. So clearly they're already redefining things out there. So it's very easy for them to pluck that word of disease out of having to be part of that to be an epidemic or a pandemic, because again, they're already doing it by calling it an epidemic. So it's going to be really easy for them to pay that WHO or the UN to put pressure on the WHO or whatever to now say, this isn't just an epidemic. Look at the statistics from the Middle East, from Africa, from South America, from Central America. This is a global epidemic, which now qualifies it as a pandemic. Oh, so now since it's a pandemic, which is a step up from an epidemic, Now we need to do things to protect public safety. There you go. We need to protect public safety. That's going to be the guys, the curtain that they're going to hide behind to start pushing these new laws. You watch them start implementing the word epidemic way more whenever you see them talk about gun violence, and you watch them eventually evolve to that and say, we are on the cusp, we are on the verge of a pandemic, a global gun violence pandemic. Guys, watch it. It's coming.
Guess what, mother...